I still remember the cold metal chair in Kevin's office. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead as he shuffled papers on his desk. His assistant, Amanda, stood by the door with a fake smile. I knew what was coming before he even opened his mouth. "Victoria, we're letting you go," Kevin announced without looking up. "Budget cuts. Nothing personal." His voice was flat, like he was reading from a script. I felt my stomach drop, but I kept my face calm. Behind him, Tyler smirked from his desk. He'd been gunning for my position for months. Now he was getting it just like he planned. Kevin slid a manila folder across the desk. "Security will escort you out in 10 minutes. I picked up the folder, hands steady despite my racing heart. "I understand," I said quietly. But inside, I was thinking about the email I'd sent yesterday. The one Kevin had no idea existed. If you like our revenge stories, please subscribe for more. We drop powerful news stories every week, filled with truth, emotion, and justice. Don't miss the next one. And remember, some stories hurt, but they heal too. Subscribe now and join the journey. 3 weeks earlier, Tyler had cornered me in the supply closet. "You don't belong here, Victoria," he whispered, standing too close. "Maybe you should find a job more suited to people like you." His breath smelled like coffee and spite. I stepped back, heart pounding. "Tyler, you need to give me space." But he just laughed and walked away, leaving me shaking. It wasn't the first time. For months he'd made comments about my clothes, my voice, even how I ate lunch. The next day, I walked into HR with sweaty palms. Nancy looked up from her computer with tired eyes. "What can I do for you, Victoria?" I explained what Tyler had been doing, how uncomfortable he made me feel. Nancy sighed and scribbled some notes. "I'll look into it," she said, but her tone suggested she wouldn't. Try to avoid being alone with him. That was it. No investigation, no follow-up, just a shrug. Tyler's behavior got worse after my HR meeting. He started accidentally bumping into me in hallways. During team meetings, he'd interrupt me mid-sentence. "Sorry, Victoria, but can adults talk now?" he'd say with a grin. Everyone would laugh nervously. Kevin never stopped him. In fact, Kevin seemed to enjoy the show. He'd nod approvingly when Tyler made his comments. Sometimes he'd even add his own jokes. "Victoria's still learning how things work around here," he'd say. I documented everything. Every comment, every incident, every time I felt unsafe. I wrote down dates, times, and witnesses. Late at night, I'd type up detailed reports on my home computer. I had a feeling I'd need proof someday. My coworker Beth noticed my stress. "You look exhausted," she said one morning. I wanted to tell her everything, but I was scared. What if she didn't believe me? What if it made things worse? The breaking point came during a client presentation. I'd worked on the proposal for weeks, staying late every night to perfect it. The client loved my ideas and asked detailed questions. I was in the middle of explaining our strategy when Tyler cut me off. "Actually, let me handle this," he said, standing up. He took over my presentation, claiming credit for all my work. Kevin sat there nodding, like this was perfectly normal. The client looked confused but didn't say anything. After the meeting, I confronted Kevin. "That was my presentation," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Tyler just took over and—" Kevin held up his hand. "Tyler has more experience with these clients," he said dismissively. "You'll understand when you've been here longer." I'd been at the company for 3 years. Tyler had been there for 8 months. I walked back to my desk feeling hollow. That night, I made a decision that would change everything. If you like our revenge stories, please subscribe for more. We drop powerful news stories every week, filled with truth, emotion, and justice. Don't miss the next one. And remember, some stories hurt, but they heal too. Subscribe now and join the journey. I went back to HR, this time with a thick folder of evidence. Nancy barely looked up when I sat down. "What now, Victoria?" she asked, annoyed. I placed the folder on her desk. "I have documented proof of harassment and discrimination." Nancy flipped through a few pages, frowning. "This just looks like workplace banter to me," she said. "Maybe you're being too sensitive." She closed the folder without reading most of it. "Tyler's a valuable employee. Are you sure you want to make accusations?" The threat was clear. I was expendable. Tyler wasn't. I took my folder back, hands shaking with anger. I see, I said quietly. Nancy had already turned back to her computer. The message was loud and clear. Shut up or get out. Walking back to my desk, I felt completely alone. But I remembered something my aunt had told me years ago. Sometimes you have to play the long game, Victoria. The truth always finds a way. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop. I opened a new email and typed carefully. The recipient was someone I hadn't contacted in years, but I knew the address by heart. It was time to reach out to family. Dear Uncle Harrison, I began. I hope this email finds you well. I'm writing because I need advice about a difficult situation at work. I explained everything: Tyler's harassment, Kevin's enabling, Nancy's dismissal of my complaints. I hit send before I could change my mind. Uncle Harrison and I weren't close, but he'd always been kind to me. More importantly, he was Harrison Blake, CEO of Blake Industries, one of the biggest consulting firms in the city. What Kevin didn't know was that my uncle was also the majority investor in our small company. 3 hours later, my phone buzzed. A text from Uncle Harrison. I'm sorry you're going through this. Can we talk tomorrow? I smiled for the first time in weeks. Uncle Harrison called me during my lunch break. Victoria, I had no idea you were working at Pinnacle Solutions, he said. His voice was warm but concerned. I invested in that company 2 years ago. If what you're telling me is true, this is very serious. I felt a mix of relief and nervousness. I didn't want to use our family connection, I explained. I just wanted to do good work and be treated fairly. Harrison listened as I detailed everything that had happened. Do you have evidence? He asked. I told him about my documentation, the emails, the witnesses. Good girl, he said proudly. Always get everything in writing. Can you send me copies of everything? Use my personal email, not the business one. After we hung up, I spent my lunch break in my car, scanning documents with my phone. Every hostile comment, every dismissed complaint, every unfair treatment. I sent it all to Harrison with a note. Thank you for listening, Uncle Harrison. I just want this to stop. The next morning, Tyler was extra aggressive. He accidentally spilled coffee near my desk, then laughed when I had to clean it up. Oops, sorry Victoria. Guess you'll need to be more careful, he said loudly. Several coworkers watched but said nothing. During our team meeting, Kevin announced that Tyler would be taking over my biggest project. Tyler has shown real leadership potential, Kevin said, not even looking at me. Victoria can assist him if needed. Assist him with my own project that I'd been leading for months. I sat quietly taking notes. Every public humiliation, every stolen credit, every unfair decision. Kevin and Tyler had no idea they were digging their own graves. After the meeting, Tyler swaggered over to my desk. Don't worry, Victoria. I'll try to find some small tasks you can handle. That afternoon, I got another text from Uncle Harrison. Meeting scheduled with their board tomorrow. Stay strong. I deleted the message immediately. The wheels were already turning. The firing happened exactly 1 week after I'd sent that email to Uncle Harrison. Kevin delivered the news with Tyler standing behind him, barely containing his glee. Like I said, budget cuts, Kevin repeated. Tyler will be taking over your responsibilities. I gathered my personal items slowly, buying time. My coworkers watched with sympathetic looks but said nothing. Beth mouthed, "I'm sorry," from across the room. I smiled sadly and kept packing. They had no idea what was coming. Security walked me to the parking garage. As we passed Kevin's office, I saw him and Tyler celebrating with expensive coffee. They were probably planning how to divide up my projects. I wondered how long that celebration would last. In my car, I sat for a moment before starting the engine. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Meeting moved to this afternoon. Justice is coming. Ush. I smiled and drove home. Time to wait for the fireworks. I spent the afternoon stress cleaning my apartment. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped. Around 4 o'clock, I got a call from Beth. Victoria, something crazy is happening here, she whispered. Some important-looking people just arrived. Kevin got called into a conference room. I tried to sound surprised. Really? Do you know who they are? Beth's voice was excited. One guy introduced himself as Harrison Blake. He's some big shot CEO. Kevin looked like he was going to throw up when he heard the name. After we hung up, I couldn't sit still. I paced around my apartment, imagining Kevin's face when he realized who Harrison Blake was. And more importantly, when he found out Harrison Blake was my uncle. The man whose investment money had been paying Kevin's salary for 2 years. My phone rang again. This time it was Uncle Harrison himself. "Victoria, I'm calling from the parking lot," Uncle Harrison said. His voice was tight with controlled anger. "I just finished the most unpleasant meeting of my career. Your documentation was thorough and damning. These people have been running my investment into the ground." I gripped the phone tighter. "What happens now?" Harrison's voice turned cold in a way that reminded me why he was so successful. "Kevin Thompson and Tyler Williams are finished. Nancy from HR will be lucky to keep her job. I'm calling an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning." He paused, then his voice softened. "Victoria, I'm proud of you for speaking up. Too many people suffer in silence. Would you be available to attend tomorrow's meeting? As my corporate consultant, of course. There will be significant changes, and I'd like your input." I almost dropped the phone. "Corporate consultant?" Harrison chuckled. "Did you think I'd let talent like yours walk away? We have work to do, niece." That night I barely slept. By morning I was dressed in my best professional outfit, a sharp navy suit I'd been saving for special occasions. Uncle Harrison had texted me the meeting details and his expectations. I was nervous but determined. I arrived at Pinnacle Solutions as Harrison's consultant. The receptionist didn't recognize me at first. "I'm here for the board meeting," I said confidently. Her eyes widened when she saw Harrison Blake's name on my temporary badge. "Of course, Miss Terry. Right this way." Walking through the office I'd been escorted out of just yesterday felt surreal. My former coworkers stared in confusion. Beth's mouth actually fell open. I gave her a small wave and kept walking toward the conference room where my old life was about to get very interesting. The boardroom was packed with serious-looking people in expensive suits. Kevin sat at the far end, looking pale and sweaty. Tyler wasn't there. Apparently, he wasn't important enough for this meeting. Uncle Harrison stood at the head of the table, commanding the room effortlessly. "Gentlemen, ladies, we have a serious problem," he began. "It has come to my attention that this company has been mismanaged in ways that violate both policy and basic human decency." Kevin tried to interrupt. "Mr. Blake, if this is about budget concerns, I can explain." Harrison held up his hand. "Mr. Thompson, you'll have time to speak. Right now I'm talking." Kevin's mouth snapped shut like a trap. Harrison clicked a remote, and my documented evidence appeared on the wall screen. This presentation was compiled by my consultant, Victoria Terry. Some of you may remember her as the employee you fired yesterday for budget cuts. The room went dead silent. I watched Kevin's face turn various shades of red as he realized who I was. Harrison continued, "Victoria happens to be my niece, and more importantly, she's documented months of harassment and discrimination that happened under your watch." The presentation continued for 20 minutes. Every text message Tyler had sent, every witness statement I'd collected, every time HR had dismissed my complaints. The board members looked increasingly uncomfortable as the evidence mounted. One board member, an older woman named Patricia, spoke first. "This is deeply troubling. How long has this been going on?" I stood up, my voice steady despite my nerves. 6 months of escalating harassment, ma'am. 3 formal complaints to HR. All dismissed without investigation. Kevin finally found his voice. "This is a misunderstanding. Tyler is one of our top performers. Tyler Williams was hired 8 months ago." Harrison interrupted, consulting his notes. "Victoria Terry has been with the company for 3 years with excellent performance reviews until suddenly, her evaluations dropped once Mr. Williams arrived." Patricia turned to Kevin with ice in her voice. "Did you investigate these complaints?" Kevin's silence was answer enough. Harrison clicked to the next slide. "Here's what's going to happen." Harrison's voice was businesslike and final. "Kevin Thompson, you're terminated immediately. Your severance package is void due to breach of management duties. Security will escort you out. Kevin started to protest, but two security guards were already standing behind his chair. Tyler Williams is also terminated. Nancy Henderson from HR will be demoted and required to undergo extensive training on workplace harassment policies. If she refuses, she's welcome to find employment elsewhere. The board members nodded approvingly. Harrison looked directly at me. Victoria Terry is hereby reinstated as Senior Project Manager with a 40% salary increase and back pay for wrongful termination. She'll also be leading our new workplace culture initiative across all Blake Industries investments. Kevin was escorted out, still sputtering protests. I watched him go, feeling a mix of satisfaction and sadness. I'd never wanted to destroy anyone's career, but he'd made his choices. Harrison squeezed my shoulder. Sometimes the only way to fix a toxic culture is to cut out the infection. After the meeting, I walked through the office in a daze. Word had spread quickly about the changes. Some coworkers looked shocked, others seemed relieved. Beth rushed over as soon as she saw me. Victoria. I can't believe it. You're Harrison Blake's niece? I smiled, feeling overwhelmed. I never wanted to use that connection, I explained. I just wanted to do good work. But when things got bad enough. Beth hugged me tightly. I'm so sorry we didn't speak up for you. We were all scared. Looking around the office, I realized how much fear had controlled this place. People were afraid to help each other, afraid to speak up, afraid to rock the boat. That was going to change. Tyler's desk was already being cleared out by security. Nancy appeared beside me, looking humbled and nervous. Victoria, I owe you an apology. I failed you as an HR professional and as a human being. If you're willing to give me a chance, I'd like to make this right. My first day back felt like stepping into an alternate universe. My new office was twice the size of my old cubicle, with windows overlooking the city. A nameplate on my desk read Victoria Terry, Senior Project Manager and Culture Development Lead. I stared at it for a long moment. Beth knocked on my door frame. Miss Terry, your first team meeting is in 10 minutes. She was grinning but trying to be professional. I laughed. Beth, you don't have to call me Miss Terry. I'm still the same person. She relaxed visibly. Okay, but this is pretty amazing. Harrison Blake personally designed your new role. The team meeting was awkward at first. These were my former peers, now my direct reports. I know this is weird, I started. A week ago I was one of you. Now I'm your manager. But I remember what it felt like to be powerless here. That's going to change. Slowly, people began opening up about problems they'd witnessed or experienced. The toxic culture had affected everyone, not just me. Word of my story spread through the industry faster than I expected. A business journal wanted to interview me about workplace harassment and corporate accountability. How does it feel to go from fired to promoted in 48 hours? The reporter asked. I thought carefully before answering. It feels like justice, but also like responsibility. Having connections helped me. But most people don't have an uncle who's a CEO. We need systems that protect everyone, not just people with influential family members. The article ran with the headline, Niece's email brings down toxic management. My phone started ringing with calls from other companies wanting advice on workplace culture. Uncle Harrison suggested I consider consulting work on the side. You found your calling, he told me over dinner. You understand both sides, what it's like to be powerless and what it takes to create change from the top. I was starting to see possibilities I'd never imagined. 3 months later, Tyler tried to contact me through LinkedIn. His message was long and rambling, claiming he'd learned from his mistakes, and asking if I could put in a good word for him somewhere. I stared at the message for a long time before hitting delete. Some people thought I should give him a second chance. But Tyler hadn't just made mistakes. He deliberately created a hostile environment. He'd enjoyed making me uncomfortable and small. Forgiveness didn't mean I had to help him find new victims. Kevin, meanwhile, had been blacklisted from most management positions in the industry. Word travels fast in professional circles, especially when Harrison Blake is involved. I felt a twinge of sympathy, but then I remembered how he'd smirked while firing me. Nancy, surprisingly, had embraced her second chance. She enrolled in advanced HR certification programs and became an advocate for workplace safety. People can change when they face real consequences. My new role expanded beyond Pinnacle Solutions. Uncle Harrison had me consulting with other Blake Industries investments, identifying and fixing toxic workplace cultures. It was challenging work, but incredibly rewarding. I was preventing other people from going through what I'd experienced. At one company, I found a situation almost identical to mine. A talented woman being harassed by a male colleague while management looked the other way. But this time, she had support from day one. We investigated thoroughly, documented everything, and took swift action. "You saved my sanity," she told me after her harasser was fired. I was starting to think I was crazy. I knew exactly how she felt. That conversation reminded me why this work mattered so much. Beth had been promoted to team lead in my old department. She was implementing the cultural changes I'd recommended, creating safe spaces for reporting problems and holding regular check-ins with staff. A year later, I was invited to speak at a conference about workplace harassment prevention. Standing on that stage, looking out at hundreds of HR professionals and executives, I felt proud of how far I'd come. But I also remembered the scared woman who'd sat in Kevin's office, being fired for someone else's entertainment. "The system failed me," I told the audience. "HR failed me. Management failed me. But I had something most people don't have, a powerful relative who could force accountability. We can't rely on people having influential uncles. We need to build systems that protect everyone." After my speech, dozens of people approached me with their own stories. Some had fought back and won. Others were still struggling. I handed out business cards and promised to follow up. This work was bigger than just one company or one story. Uncle Harrison sat in the front row, beaming with pride. After the conference, he pulled me aside. "I have a proposition for you. I want you to start your own consulting firm," Uncle Harrison said over coffee. "Blake Industries will be your anchor client, but you should be independent. You have expertise now that even I don't have." He slid a folder across the table. "I've already identified 12 companies that need your help." I opened the folder to find detailed profiles of businesses with cultural problems. Some had harassment issues, others had discrimination lawsuits, and a few had experienced whistleblower situations. "These companies want to change but don't know how," Harrison explained. The idea was exciting but terrifying. Starting my own business felt like a huge risk. What if I failed? What if I wasn't ready? Harrison seemed to read my thoughts. "Victoria, you've already proven you can create change in impossible situations. Trust yourself." Looking at those company profiles, I saw myself reflected in each problem. But I also saw opportunities to help people who felt as powerless as I once had. I gave Pinnacle Solutions 6 months' notice, and used that time to plan my new venture. Terry Consulting, building safer workplaces, would focus on harassment prevention, cultural transformation, and leadership accountability. My first office was small but professional, with a view of the park where I used to eat lunch during my darkest days at Pinnacle. My former coworkers threw me a going-away party that felt more like a celebration. "You turned our workplace from a nightmare into somewhere we actually want to be," Beth said in her speech. "Now go fix other places too." Even Nancy attended, bringing a card signed by the entire HR department. Uncle Harrison's first referral came the next week. A tech startup with a harassment problem that had made local news. The CEO was desperate to rebuild their reputation and avoid lawsuits. It was exactly the kind of challenge I'd been preparing for. My first day as a business owner, I sat in my new office and thought about Tyler, Kevin, and all the people who tried to make me disappear. 6 months into running Terry Consulting, I had more work than I could handle alone. I hired 2 associates, both women who'd experienced workplace harassment themselves. We called ourselves the accountability team, and our reputation for thorough investigations and real results spread quickly. One case particularly satisfied me. A company where the CEO's son was harassing female employees. Sound familiar? The board initially resisted our recommendations, but when we presented documentation showing a pattern of ignored complaints, they acted swiftly. The son was fired, and the CEO faced serious consequences for enabling the behavior. "This feels like déjà vu," my associate Maria laughed as we left that client meeting. Powerful men's sons thinking they're untouchable. I smiled grimly. The difference is now we have the power to hold them accountable. That evening, I got an unexpected email. It was from Tyler, writing from a new job at a small firm across the country. He'd apparently been following my success and wanted to congratulate me. Tyler's email was obviously an attempt to rehabilitate his image. I've grown a lot since our time at Pinnacle, he wrote. I hope there are no hard feelings. Maybe we could grab coffee sometime and discuss how I might make amends. The message felt calculated and insincere. I showed it to Uncle Harrison during our monthly dinner. Some people never learn, he said, shaking his head. They only apologize when they want something. I deleted Tyler's email without responding. My energy was better spent on helping people who deserved it. Looking back on everything that had happened, I realized that getting fired was the best thing that ever happened to me. It forced me to find my voice, claim my power, and build something meaningful. Kevin and Tyler had tried to make me disappear, but instead they created their own worst nightmare. A powerful advocate for the people they victimized. My phone buzzed with a text from a new client. Thank you for taking our case. You're our last hope. I smiled and started planning their rescue. Some people tried to silence voices like mine, but now I had a platform, a purpose, and the resources to fight back. The quiet girl who'd been fired in that cold conference room was gone. In her place stood someone who would never be silenced again. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more powerful narratives, and share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear what part hit you the hardest. Thanks for watching.